All right. Welcome back to another episode of Seminoles Sideline 365. Once again, you're with KB and Bruce, aka the Old Man. And tonight we got an interesting topic. Everyone is covering, seems like the same topic across the FSU media channels today, which is, I don't know, a kid from 2026 recruiting. We did get a kid in 2024 recruiting, which is great to see. But once again, he's a year away from signing any piece of paper. So I'm less interested in that. What I am interested in discussing tonight, like it says on the thumbnail, is what are the different types of coaching styles that are out there? And is Mike Norvell unsuccessful on the recruiting trail because of his type of recruiting or his coaching mentality and the way he approaches the game today? Or is he more successful because of it in terms of how he approaches the portal and because of his mentality? And are other coaches more competitive, less competitive because of it? So we'll be comparing and talking about various coaches, successful coaches around the country. And I know this is something that the Old Man is very passionate about, so I'm interested to hear his thoughts. We'll play some clips. Let's go right into it. The first guy, Old Man, that you had brought up is someone who just won a national championship. So we're going to play a piece of audio from Big Kirby Smart up in down in Athens from where I am. So we're going to play a clip from him. Let's listen in to what he has to say. I'm going to make sure that we get the audio here real quick, and let's listen to what he had to say to his team and how he motivates them.
Yeah. Trust your preparation. Go. Your ass is prepared for this shit for fucking 365 days. I think about the fuckers in that locker room. Think about getting our opportunity. All the shit you went through this week to get ready for this game. Now is when you pay the fucking price. You go out there with energy, enthusiasm. Hey, now, ain't nobody in this room should be cautious. Ain't nobody in this room should be nervous about shit. Go out here and fuck their ass up. Don't think about scoreboard. Don't think about shit. You think about knocking the shit out of them.
All right, let's stop it there for a second.
That's all. Hey, listen, KB. That's all we need. We can. I love listening to the rest of it because that's what I like. Okay, now I'm not saying KB that's what you like. I'm not saying that's what viewers like. I guarantee you there'll be people on both sides. There'll be people on both sides. And if you've played enough sports in your life, I don't care at what levels anybody's played, they've had coaches like this. They've had coaches that will get in your face, and that's how they motivate you. And Kirby Smart is motivating his Georgia Bulldogs to go out and get the second crown in a row of the national championship. And for him, this is his style. This is who he is. This is what he does. And for me, this is an effective style of motivation. Now, this doesn't mean this is necessarily his style of leadership through every practice for 12 weeks in springtime and everything else. But the motivational speeches that you will hunt down on the internet at times, I don't care who it's from, Vince Lombardi or some of the greatest coaches of all times, there are styles like this, and I like this style. Now, when he gave this speech, it was leaked out of the locker room. It was leaked out on an audio tape. Somebody recorded it, and there were mothers going, "Oh my God, I didn't know he spoke with my sons like that. Are you kidding me? Your son didn't get to this level of football playing in the national championship game without having hard-nosed coaches like this who ran them ragged and told them how it is." And so for Kirby Smart's style of motivation, which I bet you at practice, he will get in people's faces. All right. That is, in my opinion, a totally different style than we would see from Coach Mike Norvell.
Yeah, I think Kirby has a very, and that gave you a subtle look into the locker room of what maybe cameras don't see all the time, but I think you see it on the sideline, right? The way he approaches the team into a very spirited and direct attitude, like it's very in your face, and I think that comes with the territory, right? Of that he has the highest caliber athletes in the country, and he has to find a way to get them to do what he needs them to do, keep them motivated, keep them moving forward as
keep them hungry,
and especially going into a game like TCU where you are considered, they're the underdog. They got all the media behind them, and you're the back-to-back national champion. You're trying to keep a team motivated who just won the championship, right? He was able as a coach to get a team to think they were the underdog all season. He was able to craft a narrative in his team's head that it was them against the world somehow. That's all. Even the fans of Georgia were put into this mind space and convinced that somehow they were the underdog all season, even though they were like AP number 3 preseason ranked. But you see all the YouTube comments of like, look at what this team did. They overcame adversity. Over adversity, they've had what five straight top 2 recruiting classes. They're like, he was able to convince not only his team, his fans, but them as a program that it was them against the world, even though they were probably one of the top 2 most talented teams, in the country. Regardless of who they lost the NFL, they're built to reload. But that's the type of coach he is. He's able to get them to visualize and build something that drives these high caliber athletes to move forward, even when they would be, they could be in a position to maybe slack off because look, we were at the pinnacle of our careers, pinnacle of the program. We just won a national title. Guys got NFL dreams. Look at all these players who went, and you play in a highly competitive conference. It's normal to see a step back in a program because it just happens, especially when you have excuses that are out there. But he was able to craft a narrative in those players' minds, and with coaching like that, it's very direct, very in your face. Leave if you don't want to stay. We got players coming in that will replace you. Us against the world mentality. He was able to convince these players of that, and you saw the results. They smashed TCU, and they smashed most of their opponents this season once again. So with 2 back-to-back national championships. So I think Kirby's doing something right, and he's found a way to get through these players, much like we had seen with Nick Saban, for many years back. And I think it's a coaching style that is a little bit different than we see in Coach Norvell.
I cannot foresee. And again, Kirby Smart, again, we're talking about motivational speeches for games versus coaching style, which is all part of it as far as I'm concerned. But I don't see a Nick Saban giving that type of rah-rah. I don't see Nick Saban not doing it in that way. Let me make sure of something. We're not here to discredit any coach that we're talking about. These guys are all winners. Okay, they're all winners. But what we're trying to contrast is the different styles that they bring, and does one kid fit better in that style than he would in another style? For instance, I don't see Nick Saban giving a pregame speech that way. I don't see Coach Mike Norvell giving a pregame speech that way. They'll do it in their own way. Do I see Jimbo Fisher doing that? Yes. That's Jimbo Fisher would give a Kirby Smart type of, because that's who they are. That's their personality. You see that with a Jimbo Fisher on the sideline. You see his animation when the quarterback does something he doesn't like. Okay. Would Willie Taggart give that, former FSU coach Willie Taggart, give that type of rah-rah speech? Probably not. Probably not. In my opinion, maybe that was a failure. Why he's failed twice at least in the last 2 coaching stints at FSU and Florida Atlantic. You have to motivate. Even Coach Saban said, I have the best athletes in the world, but they're all lazy and I have to motivate them. And as you pointed out, Kirby Smart has had to bring them through 2 national championship runs and probably going for a 3rd.
Yeah. And to your point, just go back. You made a great point on like the descending styles of you go from a Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, Coach Norvell to like a Willie Taggart. Willie Taggart is the perfect example, because there's 3 schools of thought when you talk about coaching. I don't want to get too technical with it, but there's like the democratic coaching style, the holistic coaching style, and the autocratic coaching style. If you're to look at the chart, if you've ever taken a sports management course, Willie is the holistic coaching style. And Bracey broken down, what that means is he believes that a happy team naturally becomes a successful team. You bring in the music, you people are loose and relaxed and they're like friends, you're friends with your coach. That, if everyone's happy, the results will come, right? You employ these methods, that you kind of have the positive feedback. You're getting positive feedback from your players. You create this environment where people are comfortable exploring and pursuing skill development and doing things that are going to hopefully make themselves better. But sometimes that loose atmosphere doesn't work if you don't have leaders that are controlling it, or that are leaders in that locker room controlling that development, right?
To hold people accountable.
Exactly. And so a lot of times that holistic coaching style is best suited when you have mature players who have already developed that creativity and self-awareness to be self-guided. Not when you go into a locker room when you don't have mature players who are not willing to, don't know how, who aren't developed and do not know how to positively develop themselves. And that's a great example of where I think Willie Taggart his coaching style is not a great fit for a head coaching role when you're overseeing an entire program. And I think that's why he has failed in the longer term at both Florida State and at FAU, and why he's probably a better fit for an assistant coaching coordinator position until he figures out how he can develop his coaching style more. But that's where I want to go back to. Where, just to point out, where you have more of a autocratic type coaching style with Kirby Smart and Nick Saban, who basically the phrase is my way or the highway. You get in or you get out. They articulate the vision to their players of what they need to accomplish, and if they don't perform, they're out or they're on the bench, right? And that's, they hold everyone accountable to their vision of what they see as success for the program. And if you don't meet that standard, then you're out of the program. You're going you're out. You're bounced.
Yeah, you can have the autocratic approach without the fiery speeches,
Correct.
which I like.
Correct.
I like the fiery speeches, and I think Saban is an example of
Here's
that.
an example.
He's autocratic, but he's not going to go in there and tell the Bama faithful, go out there and fuck them up. He's not going to say that. That's not who he is. Bobby Bowden would not give that. Bobby Bowden gave some, okay, hang on a second. Bobby Bowden gave some passionate locker room speeches as well, but he didn't curse. Okay. He didn't curse. Okay.
Yeah.
People, you have to be real for the people you lead. I don't care if you're in the military. I don't care if you're in business. I don't care if you're in football, any managerial position. You got to be real to the people you lead of who you are. Now, that doesn't mean you can curse, but football has always been a cursing type of place. Whether we like it, whether your mother likes it, whether your preacher likes it, that's what it's been. And that's the reality of what it is.
But you also have to know when it's the right time to do it and when it's not. I guarantee Kirby isn't cursing every second of the day.
No,
he knows when it's the right time. Like in that moment, at that time, it was the right moment to bring it up a next notch.
And
right?
he knows which games he needs to be fiery. He knows which games I can take my foot off the pedal a little bit, and he knows that. Yeah. And you're exactly right in that regard. So the question is, as we discuss this matter, which I find is fascinating, because the bottom line is how successful are you with your technique? But you have to have a technique. You have to have a coaching philosophy. I don't care which sport you're in, but Coach Norvell has a coaching philosophy, and Nick Saban has one, and Prime Time, Coach Prime, former FSU star and NFL star, Hall of Fame NFL star. He has what I believe, and I think you and I differ on this a little bit. He has a very unique style, which I think has developed not only when he was a player, hold the clip for a minute, not only when he was a player, which if you've seen a very fascinating interview between him and Shannon Sharp. If you haven't watched it, and anybody out there wants to know who Coach Prime is, okay, you should watch this interview, because he takes it right through when he came to Florida State and how he went from Florida State into the pros and how he developed his own branding, his own style. And you know what? If you do that, you better be able to back it up, which he has been able to back it up. And now he's taken it into the Power 5 college ranks. All right. And I think it is fascinating the openness with which he is conducting this, because that's what the question will be: what happens in the fall? And this will be amazing to watch.
So let's watch a little bit of this.
But wait a minute. His style is so different than the other coaches on the scene. Their eyes must be glaring at this to say, how can a guy do this?
I don't know if it's different or more access. That's the thing we don't know. Because we see what the cameras want to see. We don't have as much. Of all the coaches, we have the least amount of access to Mike Norvell. I don't think anyone can debate that. Mike Norvell is the most gated of any of the coaches probably we've discussed. Not all coaches have a Amazon Prime special like Deion Sanders has, right? Mike Norvell gets softball questions thrown to him every press conference, right?
And he only has certain press people in there all the time.
But most coaches don't. A lot of coaches get softball questions, so it's not just Mike Norvell. But if we're comparing Mike Norvell and Deion is giving full access to the program, and he's smart to do that, right? He is trying to overhaul a 1-11 program, and what does he do? How does he get people to travel to snow-covered Colorado during during the recruiting period, whether it's transfers or recruits for the next class, to overhaul this class they just came into and get the 2024 class overhauled overnight? Turn the cameras on, turn the lights on, put a spotlight on Boulder any way possible. Barstool Sports, Amazon Prime, whatever it takes to get all eyeballs on it. And it's been a masterclass on PR.
But do you think that attracts the kids, or is it?
Yes.
I want to go play for Coach Prime.
I want to. Most of these kids weren't even born when he was playing. None of these kids were born when he was playing.
Yeah, but they know who he is.
Okay, they know who
he is. Probably the most visible guy right now in college football.
They know, but yes, I agree that his notoriety as a player does supersede him. But like I said, none of these kids were alive when he was playing. But his legacy does supersede him. That is correct. So I think that is a part of it. But if Deion was just chilling in Boulder and recruiting, texting kids and calling kids like most coaches do, it would have half the amount of impact that it does. Anytime you open up YouTube, he's top of the search results for college football.
You told me. Wait a minute. I'm gonna call you out a little bit. You told me, unless you're telling me you were kidding me, that you thought it was kind of fake. That he's kind of fake in how he's doing everything, that he's not real. Is that fair for me to put you on the spot on that?
I don't think his personality is fake. I think Deion is Deion, but I think some of what he does maybe is for the cameras. Like some of the activities he maybe does is for the cameras. Why would you have to do that? Okay, one example is now this is something Mike Norvell would never do. The clip they showed, I don't know if it was for Jackson State or Colorado, where he said, it's in front of the camera. Oh, I'll bring it up right now. Because I think it's yeah, the kid he fires. He fires him
staged.
No, I don't think it was staged. I think it was that it was. I don't think any coach would. I can't. Can you imagine Mike Norvell filming, saying, hey, Kentron, or hey,
that's not who Mike Norvell is.
That's what I'm saying. I can't imagine.
And a lot of coaches wouldn't agree with it.
I can't imagine any of these Kirby, Nick, or any of these guys saying, "Hey, cameras, let's bring the cameras in real second." Okay, John Doe player. The players voted, and yeah, we're going to kick you off the team. And then blast it out on social media. This is a 18-year-old kid that just got fired on national television.
Isn't that real life though? In real
life,
no,
it's not. Because if I get fired, it's not blasted out on social media.
Yeah. Did you see the girl?
If you get fired, it's not on social media.
See the girl who got fired from Google and she was crying and put it up on Instagram.
She put it up yesterday.
She put it up. Yeah, she put it up.
Yeah. He didn't have a choice in the matter because Deion put a camera in his face. That's the difference.
Well,
that's the difference. That's the part.
Okay. But this is an extreme. This is what we call.
I don't agree with his coaching style. It's not appropriate. It crosses a line of being fake and artificial, and it's like I said, there's a fakeness to it that I think is going to turn people off.
But you're not saying that was staged.
I don't think it was staged to a degree. It was staged to get social media attention, To that degree, yes. The kid was definitely kicked off the team, but they're staged to make it a bigger deal than it should have been. People leave teams all the time, but they don't get blasted all over social media.
So we will agree on this. This has to be one of the most futuristic, I don't know if that's the word, or extreme coaching styles that I have ever seen in my life on this planet, and watching more football than most people have in our viewership. He is fully, I say this, he is more transparent, hands above, than any other programs I've ever seen. And certainly hands above in how we can't even find out how Kendall Lyles is doing. You know what I mean? And I understand kids' privacy. I understand player privacy and program privacy, but it's like we don't really know what's going on as far as I'm concerned. And I think, and I'm being a little harsh here, and some people may not like it, okay? But this is my feelings. This is my opinion, okay? And I'm open to hear everybody's opinion. Is I don't think the official FSU, and I am an alumni more than anyone else, so I can say this, I don't think their official media really puts out that much information, to be honest with you. You know, you get a dribble and a drabble here and there. The rest of it comes from the media people like us, or like other stations, that cover this stuff. All right.
There's a big difference, though. There's a big difference.
Okay.
Well, there's a big difference. Colorado media has been a drought of nothing going on for the past 2 decades. They've had nothing to celebrate in that market forever. And what Deion is doing for them is a godsend. They'll let him do whatever he wants up there. Cameras on. They'll solve up everything.
You think they hired him because of that style, because of that openness, 100%. Not just because they think he can win games.
I don't have a number. Because can you imagine the applications going to that university now?
Turning on the cameras doesn't win games. Okay, no, it's the coaching and the recruitment,
and that's why it'll turn bad if he doesn't win games. Well, that's why it's going to rub people. It's all fun and games now, and people love cameras when things are good, but people hate cameras when things are bad. So if he doesn't win games very soon, if he doesn't win games his first 2 seasons, he can win 6 games his first season, but if he wins 6 games in the second season, those cameras are going to start to be a negative for him. Because I guarantee you the cameras turn off if things start to go south in year 2 or 3, because people don't like light being shined on negative things, especially when you control the cameras.
But you would say right now, based on him and his style and his credentials, that's the key now. That's one of them. And his credentials, that if it came down to a 4 or 5 star guy, which we've already seen this from any program, I'm not just going to pick on Florida State, but if it came down to Mike Norvell or Prime on a kid, all right, there's a big chance Prime would probably win that battle.
I can't say that.
Equal on equal.
I can't say that. I can't say that.
Well, it's happened already. Travis Hunter.
But it's not just happened. But it's not.
It happened to that kid that was going to go to Miami. What's that guy's name? So he's able to go in and pluck out people, pretty good so far. Yeah. And as we say, this is just the beginning of the circus, because it is a little bit of a circus there in Colorado. And I'm also an alumni of the University of Colorado. Now, I'm not changing teams. I don't want anybody to get crazy here, but I do have my official hat on here for a minute. Okay. Now, so but there's styles between Prime and Coach Norvell, would you say, are day and night difference?
In terms of, you can look at styles in a different way. In terms of how they approach the game, I think once again, I think they both have a assertive style of coaching. I think that, I think they're both I think Deion is definitely an autocratic style of coach. I think it's his way or the highway. He's going to set up systems and say, this is the vision for the program.
And when you show that clip, you'll see how autocratic it is. I'll add to it.
let's view the clip real quick so we can have
Just
a little
pieces
bit of
of it.
context. And then we can go.
I think this is the first meeting with as a team at Colorado, correct?
All right, let's yeah. I think this is the first initial send off or first meeting.
Yeah. And if the viewers haven't seen these, it's actually fairly interesting.
Okay. Not to compete, but to win. Not to show up, but to show out. Not to be amongst the rest, but to be the best. I'm coming. I'm flat out coming. This is real. This ain't no ESPN or this ain't one of the networks you just happen to see me on. I'm right in front of you. You know why? Because I'm coming. I'm coming to restore, to replace, to re-energize some of y'all that are salvageable. I'm not gonna lie. Everybody that sit their butt in the seat ain't gonna have a seat when we get back.
Stop it.
Right,
Stop it.
Yeah.
Now that's
Yeah.
That's pretty direct. But as we must recognize here, they've won one game last year.
Yeah.
So for him to say that, I appreciate that style. I do. I'm old school. I'll admit it. I'm an old school type guy. And he admits it. He does not shy away from saying he's old school. Okay. He's an old school guy. And he goes on. I don't know if it's in this clip or other clips I've seen. We don't, we'll run a couple more seconds of this. But he's telling people, if this isn't the program for you, then there's the door. His style is to be upfront with people, and he's also talked to these kids now and their parents about going professional, because this is the NFL minor leagues. That's what this is turning into, and we have to understand that, because when a Jared Verse goes to the next level, I saw that Jermaine Johnson was just in town. I hope they had a good conversation about what the hell it's like at the next level, because if you're not producing, you're gone. That's the reality. So when Deion is telling this team that if you're not producing, you're not on the field, I believe that is a good style.
Well, and look at it this way too. I don't think the styles of Deion or Norvell are all that different. I think Norvell inherited a garbage program, much like Deion did. Mm-hmm. Both were in failed states, horrible cultures, and just not a whole lot of talent to salvage. The difference being is that when Deion came to Colorado, he had the transfer portal available to him. Mike Norvell didn't meet. I don't think the portal had been invented yet. And then he had COVID, and then the transfer portal officially opened up. So that's the difference. Right. But look at what Norvell has done since the portal opened up. He has become the king of the transfer portal. So he is not afraid to have the conversation with the player behind closed doors. That's the difference. There isn't cameras available and open in Mike Norvell's face. Now, that's a choice of Mike Norvell, right? He could be open and say, "Hey, we want to have cameras in our locker." Jimbo Fisher did with Showtime when they had the whole special, a season win.
Right.
They did that. So that is a Norvell choice. He could bring cameras in, But Norvell has.
I thought they had a program. I thought Norvell.
I said that.
Yeah.
Norvell. No, they've done they do that with the social media and stuff like that. But let's not act like Norvell doesn't have these tough conversations. He just does them behind closed doors. He's turned over this roster extremely well and extremely quickly, and brought in the right players. So and got rid of the bad players that are the players who weren't up to snuff for this roster, and they've gone other places.
Well, I think what you're saying, KB, is you and I agree that directness is a good thing.
Yeah, and the coaches who aren't direct and aren't able to have these tough conversations enough with these players, or aren't able to have the conversations, or two, aren't able to evaluate what's on their team and what they're missing. That's the issue too. Sometimes with coaches, that they can't see, between the relationships on the team and who's a wrong fit for it, and can't see the future development of the player, and aren't able to sit down with the player and say, "Hey, I don't see a future spot for you on this team. I think you should explore the portal."
Okay,
and he's able to sit down with each of these. He has position coaches who will have those conversations, so he trusts them in their evaluation, and then he has that final conversation with those players and gets them out, and then replaces them with someone else who can have a better fit. Norvell does that, but it's all behind closed doors. Right. We don't see these.
That's
what we're seeing on this.
Yeah. That is the difference of what we're talking about, and I find fascinating. I find fascinating outside the lines of each game that we analyze. Here's the other thing that Prime goes on to say, and I'm wondering how other coaches, including Mike Norvell, handle this. And you don't have to play any more clip, I don't know if it's in this clip or others. He lays out the expectations clearly to the team. And he says to the team, and I don't think it's in this clip, so you don't have to look for it, but he says, here's what I expect. You're not bringing any cell phones to meetings. I don't want any cell phones in the classrooms when you go to class. I expect you to be in the class every day. I'm sure all the coaches, say all this. You're not wearing any slides to class. You're not wearing any slides. Everybody know what slides are? Yeah, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Even the old man's got slides. You're not wearing slides to class, and you're not wearing your pants below your ass. Okay? You're representing this team. You're representing this university. You're representing the brand gear we give you to wear. Okay? And so that's just a few of the expectations. That's a few of the I saw him jump one of his leaders on the Jackson State team for coming into a meeting late. Okay? That's old school stuff. Now, I don't know if new school coaches do that and they think, well, they're not going to respect me because I'm not Prime. Well, you have to earn their respect somehow. But do you think those rules are in place for FSU?
Remember back to the days. Remember the days of old school Jimbo going to the national, when we won the national championship. I think there were very similar rules in place. There's no social media during the season, like very strict rules, very autocratic rules of you will follow this playbook. You will not do X, Y, and Z. You're locked in during the season. I think they probably had very similar rules to that. And then things started to slide when the program kind of started to crumble. I think those things got lax. It's so lax that Jimbo Fisher made them sign that contract, that loyalty contract, or I will commit to work hard. When you get that, when you fall off that much, where you have to get them to sign like a contract says I will work hard, then you've lost your team, right? So I think stuff like this is kind of. I don't know. I think Florida State probably does have rules in place. I can't.
Sure they do.
Sure. But at the same time, sometimes I think it's a little hokey because I think it is to establish your domain and say, guys, whether it's in the locker room, whether it's in the academic arena, it's my way of the highway. Once again, it's that autocratic style that we're seeing.
Well, let me ask.
He's saying you may have. Old coaching ways are gone. The coach that went 1-11 with you guys, that culture is dead. That culture is burned. I am here. I am saying the standard. And if you don't like the standard, then you can go play somewhere else.
There's the door.
It's about setting a new standard. And like I said, it's trying to suss out which players are not ready for the program or not eligible to stay there anymore. He's trying to set a new set of rules and trying to break old habits. I think that's part of it.
Do you think kids, once they're off the practice field and on their campus, should they be able to dress the way they want to dress? Yeah. Is that individualism? They should be able to wear slides or slippers or pajamas or whatever. Do you believe, if you were the coach, would you allow that?
I believe so. But once again,
you would. I wouldn't.
And that's the different coaching styles. One coaching style would say, a little bit more democratic or holistic, but that you have to know your team. Do you have leaders that will allow you off the field to say, hey, if he sees something wrong, we'll address the younger players and say, hey, I know we can dress the way we want, or I know we can do whatever we want in off hours, but I don't think he should be doing that. Let's have some pride in our program. And that's where, like I said, Willie Taggart had a different style of coaching that allowed more free expression on different types of things, but they didn't have the leaders in the locker room that would hold people accountable.
Do you think the newer player today, this generation player, needs that individualism? I want individualism. I want to be able to tweet. I want to be able to Instagram. I want to wear slippers. I want to wear pajamas. When I'm not in the practice facility, I'm myself, and you can't tell me what to do if you want me to be on your team. Are you open to that?
I think it's different personalities. And it's like I said, I think it's different personalities and maturity on the team. If you have a very, very young team, yes, you're probably going to have a lot of players that are coming from high school, used to doing what they want, used to tweeting at all hours a day on their phone, da da da. And so you need to be more autocratic and say, no, guys, this is your schedule. This is what I expect of you. You come in suits after class. You're doing X, Y, and Z, holding it to the schedule so that they learn positive traits until they mature, they get into that style of like, okay, like I don't have to be on my phone 24/7. I don't have to tweet every emotion I have, right? Until because they're young, they're 17, 18, getting into college.
See, I think the old school.
It's not even old school.
No, it is old school. It is old school. You're just not old enough to understand what old school is. What I think the old school mentality does still work for a lot of parents. They don't want their kids running amok in these programs that we see get out of control.
But wearing sweats and sweats and sandals doesn't make you run amok.
You don't remember going to work 5-6 days a week in a coat and tie because you've never had to do that in the workplace.
But that doesn't.
You haven't had to do that.
That doesn't affect your productivity.
Okay, well,
that doesn't affect your productivity.
That's the argument, though. Does it reflect? Some people would argue against you on that. Some people would argue that our standards that I see today in society, I think the quality has dropped off in a lot of things because people. I went through the freaking Dunkin' Donuts the other day, ordered a stinking donut and got the wrong donut.
But they're in a uniform.
That's quality dropping.
But they're in a uniform.
These people weren't in a uniform. They weren't in a uniform.
Well, I guarantee they have a handbook that says they need to be in a
uniform. Well, the handbook may say one thing, but if you don't enforce the standards, if the managers don't enforce the standards,
well, that's something different. Then.
So
that's
here's
a breakdown
the deal.
In the program.
Here's the deal. I think this message of still a hardcore, disciplined approach, I think that resonates with parents and certain level recruits. I think it doesn't resonate with other ones who say, it's like the kid who can go into the military and a kid who can't go into the military. They're two different mentalities, okay? They're two different systems. Some kids aren't built for it, all right? Some kids can't handle it. So some kids are not going to resonate to Coach Prime, but he's getting his fair share, that's for sure. Whether it's his credentials, whether it's the way forward, whether these people want it hard, because what kid going there doesn't want to believe in their head they're going to the next level? And this guy's been at the next level.
Well, that's the point too. So you say, kids may not go into this regimen and it's tight, lockdown, kind of military style of program, but programs like Georgia and Alabama, probably the toughest programs to play in, they get the best kids. You know why? Because they see the results of getting to the next level. So players, students, they're willing to conform if they know what the guaranteed results are, right? We're willing to change who we are and get out of our comfort zone if we know what the reward is at the end. So, and that's what Kirby and these guys know. They have a formula and they can sell that formula. They can say, if you come to me, you may hate your life every day because of the grueling practices, what you have, being in the suit and tie every day, you dressing, having to go through this and having to get out of your comfort zone, not being able to text every day, whatever. But I guarantee you, if you stick with me, I'll give you the best shot of going to the NFL, and I have the receipts for it, right? So that is a big part of it too. And you can say Deion's been to the NFL, which he has, but does not have the track record yet to say I send guys to the NFL. I've been there, but I have not sent guys to the NFL yet. So that is the biggest difference here. And he's probably going to get there. He's going to send some guys to the NFL. That's the difference right now. Is Kirby can say, you may not like my style. You may hate what I do, my practice regimen, but I have guys in the NFL and I send them consistently.
Yeah, and we'll say this.
That's how you can sell that style.
Okay, and I think this has been a fascinating discussion. And here's what we need to say about Coach Mike Norvell. He is tracking the proper way. His program is tracking up. His stock is up, okay? And he's moving into the 2023 season with a lot of expectations, which is a subject for another show. A lot of expectations, a lot of weight. So his style, which seems to attract very good players, okay? attracts very good players to this program at this point. All right. He's inching his way into where they're calling him perhaps like they call Coach Prime. We're not right there yet.
Yeah.
But now they're starting, because I'll tell you why. And I'm going to give Coach Norvell a lot of credit and his staff. He has built a solid on the field and solid off the field staff to really work this personnel issue, because personnel is the name of the game. And I've listened to several interviews on YouTube from players that just came in from the portal. Okay, I don't need to get into the names, but every one of those kids, number one, they were very mature. Okay, that's where the portal pays off. They were very mature. They talked like they were professionals, and they already had experiences that you can't get from a high school guy who has to transition for 1 or 2 years. Okay. Yeah. Unless you're, a kid who, I'm a 5-star, I need to play right now or I'm leaving. Well, then freaking leave. Okay. If you should have a sign, here's the door. If you don't like what's going on, if you're not willing to earn, those stars mean nothing. Okay. What's his name? Braden Fisk. Okay. He said he didn't even understand really what the star system was all about when he was in high school. And then they went around a few camps and finally got a look, and he went to Western Michigan.
Got one offer, I think, for Division I.
Yeah, he got one off. But he came across so mature now, but all of these guys that I listened to, all of them said how good they could relate to the coaching staff and Coach Norvell and their position coaches. That is effective.
Yeah.
Now, whatever their style is, that is effective. Whether or not they're allowed to wear slides to class or their pajamas with a hoodie, Florida State, that's up to the coaching styles. You're exactly right. Okay. And the bottom line is it's productivity. You can do all of these things, but the most thing you have to do is give direct and honest feedback when you're recruiting a player and when they're in your program. And I have to give it A at this point. I'll give it A. I'll give it B plus, A minus to Coach Norvell and staff, the entire staff, of what they're doing.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think he has a hybrid coaching style, and I think he's finally going to start to get with the results on the field that the high school recruiting is going to get going. I think he's starting to get those relationships. I think Patrick Surtain is going to help again too, and I think he does a lot more trust with his coaching staff. He sets up a system, and he trusts the staff to help not only obviously recruiting, but with development of his players. And he trusts, and you've seen how many assistants that have come under him get better jobs, and because he trusts in them so much. He does the play calling and stuff like that, but he trusts in terms of development and practice, and he puts a lot on their shoulders because he creates an institution of development, and so he's picking the right guys, and he's now trusting them on high school recruiting. But in the portal, he's able to resonate with these players because, once again, he is a player. He's not on the level of prime time, but he's a player himself, so he can resonate with them, and he's authentic, and that is I think the one big difference I could see with him in prime time. Some people may see Prime not as always coming off as authentic because there's always a camera in his face. Everything's being recorded. With Norvell, more close to the chest, willing to have a one-on-one conversation with you, and it's not going to be on YouTube the next day.
Okay,
bear that in mind. That could be seen as more authenticity, because not everything is going to show up the next day on a social media channel.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I was going to show a clip.
I want you to play. Which one are you going to play?
I think it's the one we're both thinking about here. This one. After 2 seasons ago, when the program was falling apart around him.
0-4.
I think this was the most honest we ever saw Coach Mike.
Exactly. This is the most animated I've seen.
Yeah. So let's take a look at this.
Play for a second.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this and
to play at one of the greatest places in the country, right? With a wonderful fan base that cares. And I mean, look, I'm pissed off that we're 0-4. right? And we can bring up how many years it's been. I don't really give. I mean, I can't control that. I can control this team at this moment and right now with the opportunity. And so we're going to work our butts off to go get better. And we're going to do it the right way. And we're going to have a standard of how we operate.
Now, that is the emotion I like to see. That shows me that in that locker room that we don't see, okay, that he has that ability going into a big game, like number one game, LSU coming up, or a Clemson game, to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And it's something that the players don't see all the time. You can't do it all the time or they don't believe it anymore.
Yeah, you got to know when to dial it up.
You got to know when to dial it up. That he has that ability to dial it up in that regard.
And I think in this moment too, losing to Jacksonville State, probably one of the lowest, maybe the lowest moment for the program.
And his career.
And his career. When people were quite, I mean, there was a whole Twitter feed of fire Mike Norvell, and you're thinking, okay, is this another coach that you're wasted millions of dollars on, and we have to restart again? He said everything correctly, right? And he knew, and I think he also knew, right? There was still a lot of this roster that needed to be fixed. He's working with a broken deck trying to make it work, and whether fans want to, acknowledge that or not, sometimes you don't have all the tools and you have to make the best of them. And like he said, we're going to go to work. He didn't say, tomorrow's another day. We're going to, go out and fight, but you could tell he wanted to curse so much, but he controls himself and controlled his emotions. And that's the difference too. Once again, Deion is very expressive, willing to say whatever he wants to say. And that's his style. But Norvell controls his emotions, that just, wanted to express what he wanted to express, but wanted to do it in a controlled manner, save that energy for when it was needed, and want to get out in there, whatever you want to say. I don't know how the best way to say it, but I think this is the moment that's always resonated with Florida State fans, because it was the lowest moment, but in that moment, he was calm, he was collected, and he said, we have to get back to work. It's not pretty, but we have to get back to work, and this is part of the building process.
And he got a win the next week.
Yeah, exactly. This was rock bottom, and we have to continue to build and continue to work.
Well, he also said this, and then we're going to move on. We have a standard. Yeah. We are not deviating from the standard. We are going forward with the standard and bringing people up to that standard. Okay. We will bring people up to that standard.
Because the fact is, and there's a saying, like, just because you work hard doesn't mean you're going to get a good result, right? And just because, and that's the thing, just because you do something and you don't get the expected result doesn't mean it didn't work. It's just things you have to tweak along the way. So you just get back in the lab, you keep working at it, because eventually things will go right. It doesn't mean you change the entire formula. You just have to keep building and working at it, stuff like that. And that, like you just said, like, he knew that the results would eventually come. But some people, he believed in the program, he knew we're going to see that result. Some of those players were going to say, no, this is it for me. We're 0-4. We just lost to Jacksonville State.
I'm done.
I'm done. And that's what he wanted to see. He wanted to see which player
was going to quit
mentally.
Who's going to quit?
Exactly.
Yeah, who's going to quit? So that's a good transition into the final clip that I want you to show a few seconds of a program. Again, and there's a few of them around the country, more than a few, that is a total dumpster fire, with a coach that was hired and unhired, or not really hired. And what a disaster it has been this week for Ed Reed and Bethune-Cookman in Daytona Beach, Florida. Throw that clip up for a minute.
I don't know.
For anybody who hasn't seen it. All right. This style, I believe, would not work no matter what. Okay. And that's my opinion.
You saw the front of the building.
Terrible.
This the back of the building. They working on the front of the building. This the same people said, we're going to help you build what you want. How I'm going to believe you, man? How I'm going to believe them? Didn't I tell you I don't trust nobody? I'm coming over giving them the same passion, and they smiling and laughing in my
okay
thing.
Okay. There's plenty.
I think there's plenty to dig in. Like I said, I think this is a bigger issue than coaching and styles.
It
and
is.
stuff like that.
It's
an institutional issue.
It is.
It's more than that.
And let me say this: we're not here to berate Ed Reed, who is an NFL legend, All Pro, All NFL, Hall of Famer. Has been debated as be the number one safety of all times. He played at Miami, right? Played at Miami. At Miami. He gave
he was coaching at Miami last season.
Yeah, he was coaching down there. He's had other offers, so-called claimed other offers.
The guy doesn't need money. The guy doesn't need to be coaching.
Really doesn't. So he goes in to Bethune-Cookman, which is in Daytona Beach, an HBCU, and expects he's going to be turning this over like he's Coach Prime. I think that's what his thinking was. But he is not Coach Prime. Coach Prime has been developing his polished branding since he was at Florida State and went on to stardom. Ed Reed doesn't, in my opinion, bring that same level of polish. And if you look at all the videos out there now on this entire incident, and they're all over the place. He got into it with Shannon Sharp. He got into it with the administration, who have now backed away from him.
Well, I think the administration's as much messed
and there's
up.
Problems
I think
we're not here to debate that, but the problem is, if you look at enough of those videos, I have to question maybe how Ed Reed's style would work there. Okay. I think he has the right mindset of what he wants to do, because he's saying the conditions are deplorable. Okay. And I want to change this, but he has to understand you can't go out and blast the administration in open media like Prime does. Prime did it in Jackson. Prime did it on camera in Jackson. He went after the city council and the mayor and the governor and saying, there's stuff going on here. Ed Reed and other coaches, Mike Norvell, Kirby Smart, probably can't get away with any of that. Okay. Yeah. And Ed Reed, I think, knows he probably made a mistake there. And here's what I think that Coach Prime has made a mistake professionally. Ed Reed met with parents and recruits and said, I'm out of the program. I'm out of the program. Coach Prime came on the video and said, you're my best buddy. You're my friend. And sometimes you have to walk away. I think Coach Prime has to learn too. You've got to separate out. Don't mix football and business and friend. It's his friend, though. It's his friend. And I get that. And he stood up for him, which shows Coach Prime's not hiding anything. The question is, can Coach Prime stay focused on his business at hand? Well,
I'll close the Ed Reed thing. Like I said, that's beyond coaching styles. I think what Coach Prime did, like you said, he's got a well-oiled machine of social media, contracts. Like, he's balanced that very well. And he went to Jackson State with knowing what he was going to do there in less than ideal conditions. I think, like you said, he blasphemous, but he had a social media plan and PR plan going in there. And I think that was the issue with Ed Reed there, is that he just kind of did the Instagram video and it just spiraled out of control. And it was a PR disaster.
He didn't go in.
That's a whole other topic.
He didn't go in and really see what the situation was.
But once again, he was willing to invest millions of dollars into that program, and that administration is dumb as hell, I think, on their behalf. So I think there's fault on both sides. That's a whole other story. With Prime, though, to your point, can he balance all these initiatives he's trying to do? Social media, doing all these videos.
Criticism that's going to come.
Like I said, if he doesn't win, those cameras are going to get awfully interesting.
I'll tell you right now, I think their schedule is much tougher than ours. I think so.
Well, that's a whole other topic. But like I said, I think they have at least 6 wins on their schedule. They should be able to make a bowl next season. But if things go sideways, cameras get interesting. And I think that's one thing that's smart about Florida State and some of these bigger programs. You'll invite unneeded distractions, because when you put cameras in players' faces, you're talking about distractions. You can say no slides, no hoodies, whatever, but you're going to put tons of cameras in their faces. How can you ban social media? How can you ban all these distractions when you're putting them on YouTube videos every other week? Like it seems counterintuitive, right? You're going to put all these cameras and stuff in their face every day, every practice, every time they're walking down the hall.
He says that's what the kids want. He says that's what the players today want.
And slides. It doesn't make any sense. Oh,
okay. Here's the deal. Okay.
It doesn't make sense.
Here's the deal. And then we're going to wrap this up. Here's the deal. Message out to Athletic Director Alford here at Florida State. We don't need to go to Europe to play a football game. That was
okay.
Floating around. Hold on for a minute.
You're getting off track.
No, we're not off track. We don't need to go and do that in Ireland or London or any of that. We don't need that. Here's what we should do. In 2024, schedule a game with prime time, a home and away, 2-game schedule, just like we have with LSU, and you will sell out every seat in Tallahassee, and they will sell out every seat in Boulder, Colorado. That's what the people want. And if you think for 1 minute, and I'm just going to throw this out there, if there's any backstepping in the FSU program in the next couple of years, okay, in the next 2 or 3 years, if you don't think Prime would be the prime candidate to come to Tallahassee, you're out of your mind. He doesn't want to stay in that cold weather any longer than he has to, probably to get his son through that program, and then he's looking south. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I don't think they're not.
Prove me I'm wrong.
Well, they're not going to book Colorado the next 5-6.
Wouldn't that be good? Tell me that wouldn't.
They're not going to book them. We play Notre Dame in 24 on the road and Memphis. Then we play Alabama in 25 and 26. And then we have Georgia in 27, 28. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
That's sad. That's too bad. Too bad.
You already have marquee games.
And here's the last thing. For the spring game, set it up to bring Florida A&M in, and let's just have a little scrimmage one-on-one controlled instead of the spring game that looks like the NFL Pro Bowl. Now
you're ruining segments. You're ruining future segments. All right, let's wait. Okay.
Which they've turned into flag football.
These could be future segments, but all right. All right, that's it. All right, we went longer than usual. Like I said, different coaching styles, different types of play. They all are effective in different manners, and we'll see how Prime works out in Colorado. I think he'll win 6 games, but that's it for tonight. If you haven't already, subscribe, like the video, share it with a friend, leave a comment. Let us know what you think of all these different coaches we discussed.
Hey, and happy birthday to KB. It's his birthday tonight. He didn't go out celebrating. He did a program for you guys. Let's hear it for KB. Happy birthday, KB.
All right, guys. Take it easy. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.